Major developments around Kobo, Ethiopian National Defense Force reinforcements, Tigray Defense Force recruitment, surrenders, and new weapons. Viewers, welcome to Africa Frontline. The situation around the Raya Kobo front continues to attract attention as both sides appear to be strengthening their positions and preparing for the possibility of further fighting. Kobo remains under the control of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, but developments further south and around the surrounding highlands suggest that the Ethiopian military is preparing additional offensive positions. At the same time, the Tigray Defense Forces are reportedly increasing recruitment inside Tigray, while claims of ENDF soldiers surrendering and footage showing an improvised TDF rocket system are adding another dimension to the developing situation. Here are the major developments. Viewers, the most important development concerns the reported movement of additional Ethiopian National Defense Force personnel and equipment toward positions around Raya and Kobo. Kobo itself remains under ENDF control, but the reported strengthening of positions further south could indicate that the Ethiopian military is preparing for different possible scenarios rather than simply concentrating everything around the town. One interpretation is that the ENDF is establishing multiple defensive layers. Kobo would remain the forward position, while locations further south could serve as reinforcement, logistics, and fallback areas if pressure on the Kobo sector increases. This would allow the military to defend the main route while maintaining additional forces behind the immediate front. The development is important because the area is not simply a collection of isolated towns. The road network connecting Kobo with the south is strategically significant for the movement of troops, ammunition, fuel, and other military supplies. If fighting intensifies around Kobo, control of the roads leading south could become just as important as control of the town itself. Viewers, another significant development is the reported reinforcement of Zobo Mountain. The high ground around this area has considerable military value because elevated positions can provide better observation over surrounding terrain. For a defending force, that can mean earlier detection of approaching units, improved observation of road movement, stronger position for defensive fire, better protection of important routes, and greater difficulty for an attacking force attempting to dislodge troops from the high ground. Your Zobo's location close to the Kobo area and the major road connecting the northern front with areas further south makes the position particularly important. If the ENDF can maintain control of these elevated positions, it can potentially strengthen its ability to monitor movement around the Kobo sector. This also means that any future attempt to push toward Kobo could involve fighting not only around the town itself but also around surrounding high ground. Viewers, the wider strategic issue is the A2 highway. The route connecting the northern areas with major population and logistical centers further south is essential for military movement. During a conflict, a major highway can become a lifeline for a defending army. It allows troops reinforcement, ammunition movement, evacuation of wounded, logistical resupply, movement of heavy equipment. For the reason, positions overlooking the highway can have importance beyond their geographical size. If an attacking force threatens Kobo, the ENDF would have a strong incentive to protect the road network behind it. This may help explain why additional defensive activity is reportedly being observed around positions south of Kobo and on elevated terrain. Viewers, on the other side of the front, another important development is emerging from Tigray. The Tigray Defense Forces are reportedly calling on young people in the region to join their ranks. This recruitment effort comes at a sensitive moment when military activity around the Raya area has increased and both sides appear to be strengthening their positions. A recruitment campaign does not automatically mean that a major offensive is imminent. However, if recruitment is taking place alongside military mobilization, reinforcement of positions, and increased political tension, it can indicate that the organization wants to increase its manpower before a possible escalation. The timing is therefore significant. The Tigray Defense Force would potentially need additional personnel not only for frontline operations but also for logistics, territorial security, communications, and defensive positions. Another development concerns claim that additional ENDF soldiers have surrendered to Tigrayan forces. Viewers, images circulating in connection with these claims reportedly show 3 soldiers wearing ENDF uniforms with weapons nearby. The Tigray Defense Force side has presented them as soldiers who surrendered during the recent fighting. However, this claim has not been independently confirmed. That distinction is important because battlefield parties frequently publicize captured or surrendered personnel as evidence that the opposing side is suffering from declining moral or operational difficulties. If these particular claims are eventually verified, however, they could provide an indication of pressure on some frontline units. The significance would depend on several factors: how many soldiers actually surrendered, where they surrendered, whether they were isolated or part of a large unit, whether their unit had been surrounded, and whether additional soldiers subsequently followed them. A handful of individual surrenders would have limited military significance. A sustained pattern of defections or mass surrenders would be much more consequential. Viewers, another development attracting attention in footage reportedly showing TDF fighters operating an improvised rocket launcher. The weapon is presented as a locally developed or modified system rather than a conventional factory-produced military launcher. The significance of such a system is not necessarily its claimed performance. In a conflict where access to conventional military equipment can be restricted, armed groups may attempt to modify existing components or construct weapons using locally available materials. Such system can potentially provide additional firepower without requiring the same supply chains associated with conventional military equipment. However, claims that the weapon is superior to established Cold War era rocket systems should not be treated as a verified technical assessment without independent testing. The footage does demonstrate that the TDF is displaying locally developed or improvised military equipment, but the actual range, accuracy, explosive effect, and reliability of the system remain unclear. Viewers, thank you for watching.